welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John, and today I am going to be for today, our Horror Across America continues, and I'm going to be going through 2 states once again today. I'm going to be taking a very brief trip through Idaho, and then we'll be going into Illinois. And yes, I know those 2 states are very far apart from each other, but that is how we're going to do it. All right. You guys ever read a story called Mrs. Todd's Shortcut by Stephen King? I think, if I remember the plot of the story, it was about this woman that what she could do was she would, you know how you have a map. This is back when they had maps. This is not when they had Google Maps. This is when they had actual paper maps, and you had to unfold them and everything. But the way Mrs. Todd would do is she would fold the maps, and that would make the area from one place to another shorter. That's how she took her shortcut. I believe that's how that story went. If anybody read it, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, that's exactly what happened. Was she's like, all right, well, you know what? You go from here to here, but if you fold this, it shortens it, and you'll get from here to here much faster. So that's what we're doing by going from Idaho to Illinois. We're taking Mrs. Todd's shortcut. All right. So first up for Idaho, I've got 2 books for Idaho. First one is Pines, and this is by Blake Crouch. And I believe this is the first book in a trilogy, the Pines trilogy or the Wayward Pines trilogy or something like that. I haven't read them. Some of these recommendations that I give to you guys are recommendations for me too. I think, well, this sounds interesting. I'll read this myself. All right. Secret Service agent Ethan Burke arrives in Wayward Pines, Idaho with a clear mission. Locate and recover 2 federal agents who went missing in the bucolic town 1 month earlier. But within minutes of his arrival, Ethan is involved in a violent accident. He comes to in a hospital with no ID, no cell phone, and no briefcase. The medical staff seems friendly enough, but something feels off. As the days pass, Ethan's investigation into the disappearance of his colleagues turns up more questions than answers. Why can't he get any phone calls through to his wife and son in the outside world? Why doesn't anyone believe he is who he says he is? And what is the purpose of the electrified fences surrounding the town? Are they meant to keep the residents in or something else out? Each step closer to the truth takes Ethan further from the world he thought he knew, from the man he thought he was, until he must face a horrifying fact. He may never get out of Wayward Pines alive. And that was Pines, and that is by Blake Crouch. All right. Okay, so next up, this author here is one that I've never read him, and from what I understand, I believe he is what you would consider to be a Christian author. In other words, he writes Christian fiction or Christian horror fiction. I don't know if I've ever read any Christian horror fiction before. I'm not sure. I have read horror novels by authors who are Christians. Eric S. Brown is a Christian author. And he writes the Bigfoot War series, and I tell you what, they are very gory, so don't let his being a Christian sway you from wanting to read the books, because they are really good, really action-packed, and if you saw the Bigfoot War movie, it's horrible. Don't blame him for that, okay? Anyway, this is called Monster, and this is by Frank Peretti, okay? Something's out there. Reed Shelton organized this survival weekend, hired the best guide in the region, meticulously trained, studied, and packed while encouraging his wife, Beck, to do the same. But little did they know that surviving the elements would become the least of their worries. During their first night of camping, an unearthly wail pierces the calm of the forest. Then something emerges from the dense woods and begins pursuing them. Everything that follows is a blur to Reed, except for the unforgettable image of a huge creature carrying his wife into the darkness. Dependent on the efforts of a small town and a band of friends, Reed knows they have little time to find Beck. Even more important, he soon realizes that they aren't the only ones doing the hunting. Something much faster, more relentless, and definitely not human has begun to hunt them. and that is Monster, and that is by Frank Peretti. All right, so like I said, that was a real brief trip into Idaho, so now we are going to go on into Illinois. And the first thing we have for Illinois is Summer of Night, and this is by Dan Simmons. It's the summer of 1960, and in the small town of Elm Haven, Illinois, 5 12-year-old boys are forging the powerful bonds that a lifetime of change will not break. From sunset bike rides to shaded hiding places in the woods, the boys' days are marked by all of the secrets and silences of an idyllic middle childhood. But amid the sun-drenched cornfields, their loyalty will be pitilessly tested. When a long silent bell peals in the middle of the night, the townsfolk know it marks the end of their carefree days. From the depths of the old central school, a hulking fortress tinged with the mahogany scent of coffins, an invisible evil is rising. Strange and horrifying events begin to overtake everyday life, spreading terror through the once idyllic town. Determined to exorcise this ancient plague, Mike, Dwayne, Dale, Harlan, and Kevin must wage a war of blood against an arcane abomination who owns the night. And that is Summer of Night, and that is by Dan Simmons. Okay, this next one I believe is a young adult horror thriller novel. When I was reading this synopsis, I'm thinking this really doesn't sound like a horror novel, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Maybe it is. Maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. If anybody has read it, let me know. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Downers Grove, and this is by Michael Hornberg. Downers Grove is the haunting and tender story of Chrissy Swanson, a paranoid high school senior for whom graduating has become a matter of life or death. She's an unusual girl in an ordinary town. Her mother's sex life is overshadowing her own. Her brother is aboard his own private enterprise, slipping into one black hole after another. Her best friend is hornier than a Prince song, leaving her eccentric grandmother as the only source of wisdom in a rapid downward spiral. As Chrissy tries to take control of the events that shape her life, she finds the events beginning to take control of her until she is finally cornered by choices with everlasting consequences. Full of humor, wit, and the sacrilegious worldview of a savvy teenager, Downers Grove paints a searing portrait of the American dream in all its broken glory. And that is Downers Grove by Michael Hornberg. All right, next we have got Blood Secrets, and this is by Craig Jones. When Irene Rutledge, a brilliant and beautiful young graduate student, meets the mysterious and fascinating Frank Madison, the two soon fall in love and marry, despite the warnings of Irene's family and friends. But soon after their marriage, dark secrets from Frank's past begin to emerge to threaten their happiness, secrets that will lead to murder and a shocking and horrific conclusion. And that is Blood Secrets, and that is by Craig Jones. Okay, and my camera may move a little bit because my cat is right underneath it. So I'm going to put my phone down for a second. Let me grab her because I don't want her to knock my camera over. Sorry. She likes to be in here with me. This is Thomason. Okay, and if you can hear her purr if you listen loud enough. I don't know. Alright, so anyway, the next one I'm going to be talking about is Rose Madder, and this is by Stephen King. Rosie Daniels leaves her husband Norman after 14 years in an abusive marriage. She is determined to lose herself in a place where he won't find her. She'll worry about all the rest later. Alone in a strange city, she begins to make a new life, and good things finally start to happen. Meeting Bill is one, and getting an apartment is another. Still, it's hard for Rosie not to keep looking over her shoulder, and with good reason. Norman is a cop with the instincts of a predator. He's very good at finding people, even if he is losing his mind. Fixed on revenge, Norman Daniels becomes a force of relentless terror and savageness, a man almost mythic in his monstrosity. For Rosie to survive, she must enter her own myth and become a woman she never knew she could be. Rose Matter. And that was Rose Matter, and that is by Stephen King. Okay, next up we have got The Nightmare Room, and this is by Chris Sorensen. I believe this is book 1 in the Messy Man series. New York audiobook narrator Peter Larson and his wife Hannah head to his hometown of Maple City to help Peter's ailing father and to put a recent tragedy behind them. Though the small Midwestern town seems the idyllic place to start afresh, Peter and Hannah will soon learn that evil currents flow beneath its surface. They move into an old farmhouse on the outskirts of town, a house purchased by Peter's father at auction and kept secret until now, and start to settle into their new life. But as Peter sets up his recording studio in a small basement room, disturbing things begin to occur. Mysterious voices haunt audio tracks, malevolent shadows creep about the house, and when an insidious presence emerges from the woodwork, Peter must face old demons in order to save his family and himself. And that is The Nightmare Room, and that is by Chris Sorensen. All right. Okay, next up we have got a definite classic. This is Something Wicked, This Way Comes, and this is by Ray Bradbury. Few American novels written this century have endured in the heart and mind as has this one, Ray Bradbury's incomparable masterwork of the dark fantastic. A carnival rolls in sometime after the midnight hour on a chill Midwestern October eve, ushering in Halloween a week before its time. A calliope's shrill siren song beckons to all with a seductive promise of dreams and youth regained. In this season of dying, Cougar and Dark's pandemonium shadow show has come to Greentown, Illinois, to destroy every life touched by its strange and sinister mystery. And 2 inquisitive boys standing precariously on the brink of adulthood will soon discover the secret of the satanic Rari, shows smoke, mazes, and mirrors, as they learn all too well the heavy cost of wishes and the stuff of nightmare. And that is Something Wicked, This Way Comes, and that is, of course, by Ray Bradbury. All right. Next up, we have got The House by the Cemetery, and this is by John Everson. Rumor has it that the abandoned house by the cemetery is haunted by the ghost of a witch, but rumors won't stop carpenter Mike Costner from rehabbing the place as a haunted house attraction. Soon he'll learn that fresh wood and nails can't keep decades of rumors down. There are noises in the walls and fresh blood on the floor, secrets that would be better not to discover. And behind the rumors is a real ghost who will do whatever it takes to ensure the house reopens. She needs people to fill her house on Halloween. There's a dark, horrible ritual to fulfill, because while the witch may have been dead, she doesn't intend to stay that way. And that is The House by the Cemetery, and that is by John Everson. Next up, we have got The Ghost Tree, and this is by Christina Henry. When the bodies of 2 girls are found torn apart in the town of Smith's Hollow, Lauren is surprised, but she also expects that the police won't find the killer. After all, the year before her father's body was found with his heart missing, and since then everyone has moved on. Even her best friend Miranda has become more interested in boys than in spending time at the old ghost tree, the way they used to when they were kids. So when Lauren has a vision of a monster dragging the remains of the girls through the woods, she knows she can't just do nothing, not like the rest of her town. But as she draws closer to answers, she realizes that the foundation of her seemingly normal town might be rotten at the center, and that if nobody else stands for the missing, she will. And that is The Ghost Tree, and that is by Christina Henry. Okay, next up we have got Exorcist Falls, and this is by Jonathan Jans. Chicago is gripped by terror. The Sweet 16 killer is brutally murdering young women, and the authorities are baffled. When the police are called to an affluent home in the middle of the night, they learn that a seemingly normal 14-year-old boy has attacked his family. The boy exhibits signs of demonic possession, and even more troublingly, he knows too much about the Sweet 16 killings. Father Jason Crowder, a young priest assigned to the case must marshal his courage in order to save the boy and the entire city from the forces of evil. But this is a darkness mankind has never encountered before. It craves more than blood, and it won't rest until it possesses Father Crowder's soul. And that is Exorcist Falls, and that is by Jonathan Jans. Alright, next we have got Lovecraft Country, and this is by Matt Ruff. Chicago, 1954. When his father Montrose goes missing, 22-year-old Army veteran Atticus Turner embarks on a road trip to New England to find him, accompanied by his Uncle George, publisher of the Safe Negro Travel Guide, and his childhood friend Letitia. On their journey to the manor of Mr. Braithwaite, heir to the estate that owned one of Atticus's ancestors, they encounter both mundane terrors of white America and malevolent spirits that seem straight out of the weird tales George devours. At the manor, Atticus discovers his father in chains, held prisoner by a secret cabal named the Order of the Ancient Dawn, led by Samuel Braithwaite and his son Caleb, which is gathered to orchestrate a ritual that shockingly centers on Atticus. And his one hope of salvation may be the seed of his and the whole Turner clan's destruction. A chimerical blend of magic, power, hope, and freedom that stretches across time, touching diverse memories of members of two black families. Lovecraft Country is a devastating kaleidoscopic portrait of racism, the terrifying specter that continues to haunt us today. And that is Lovecraft Country, and that is by Matt Ruff. And that will do it. That is it for, Idaho and for Illinois. Once again, I hope you guys have enjoyed this trip through horror across America. And until next time, take care and stay scared. Bye-bye.